So yesterday, Bill Clinton spoke to a crowd of people in, I don't know where it was, New York or something, and there were some Black Lives Matter protesters there, and he was accused of shouting them down, and they were saying stuff about his crime bill that led to lots of black African American people being basically criminalization of being black, essentially, and the mass incarcerations we've been seeing over the last few decades. And so these people were yelling, and then he was saying something like, hey, you know, that wasn't what we intended. We were trying to get rid of these super predators who are these gang leaders who are sending kids out on crack, putting kids on crack and then sending them out to kill people, right? To kill black people, the people that you say the lives matter and so on. Anyway, so I watched this and I was like, okay, yeah, Black Lives Matter, and then, you know, this guy, you know, basically explaining what happened, and it sounds legit, you know, so that's fine. And then I saw all these people saying, this is terrible, how can he say this, how can he do this, how can he be like this, right? And I looked it up on YouTube and I saw this African American guy saying it was really terrible what he was saying, and how it was, you know, he was really fucking up the campaign for Hillary Clinton because he was showing no understanding. And then I had some white friends who were saying, yeah, like what's wrong? He's, you know, makes sense what he's saying, like what's the problem, right? And I've done a lot of training. I've done some training in the past on diversity training, right, which is about understanding different cultures in the US and how different ethnicities and how they relate to each other, and understanding things like white privilege. And white privilege is how when you're white you don't even realize how easy you have it, and so it's very hard to understand what it's like not to be white. And so I had a sense that what was happening was something to do with white privilege, but I wasn't clear on what it was. So I said to my wife, who's Vietnamese American, her parents were Vietnamese refugees from Vietnam after the Vietnam-American War, or after the Vietnam War. And she just said, well, the thing is, he's not saying to them, oh, you're really angry, you're upset, I understand you're upset, and I'm sorry that, you know, that my actions hurt you and your families and so on. Instead of saying that, he was just trying to explain why he did what he did and how it was okay what he did. And so, yeah, I understand that. And I don't know how much that ties into white privilege. I think it's connected, because I think it's hard for him to understand the real implications. You know, I mean, he has hundreds of millions of dollars, and he probably lives a pretty cushy life, and his family is pretty safe. And so I'm trying to understand this, because I have this thing where I'm like, meh, sounds like a reasonable argument. But African American people don't think it's a reasonable argument. Black Lives Matter, who represent African American people who are continually harassed by the police for being black, don't think it's legitimate the way he responded. And a lot of them more progressive. I mean, I'm older, I'm in my 40s, and so I think that I don't quite have the level of I don't know what it is. I'm just not millennial enough or something. I mean, I have other friends who are liberal who don't seem to get this either. But I just try to understand it. It's like, imagine if you were black, right? And you have relatives, father, brother, maybe sister, who are who have been in prison for most of their lives, right? You basically lost your family because they were in prison. And then maybe you have a friend or a sibling who was killed, or multiple friends or siblings who were killed by the police. Maybe you're continually being racially profiled, continually being pulled over, being harassed by the police. You're scared of the police all the time. this kind of like you're the victim of this criminalization of blackness that Bill Clinton was involved in, you know, and Hillary Clinton were involved in. What would it be like to then protest, you know, to speak up and then be told, oh, what are you yelling for? You know, why don't you listen to me? Why don't you understand my arguments, my logical arguments? You know, like you're just scared, which is a very kind of a weird thing to say, right? You're just scared of having a civil discussion about this, right? You should be willing to have a civilized discussion, you know? You know, it's like when they got on the stage with Bernie Sanders, I think Bernie Sanders understands it more because he just gave them the microphone and he was like, okay, say what you need to say. You have a voice now, you know? And like, I think I have a sort of a feeling for it, but I don't think I quite have it. I'm not sure if I'm even like qualified to talk about this right now because I don't fully get it, but I'm struggling with it and I want to understand it. And I think it's just hard to get like how kind of fucked up it's been for black people. And I think there's this little movement called Black Lives Matter, which is trying to speak out and have a voice for this thing, you know. And it's fucking serious. Like, imagine if you were in that position, how you would feel. I think it's just a matter of trying to empathize with them and trying to like say, yeah, that's fucking insane what they've been through and what they still go through now. And they need a voice, you know. So yeah, that's where I'm at. If you've got comments, please let me know. Please help me to understand. I want to understand. I want to learn. I want to increase my empathy, my compassion. You know, if I was running for some kind of political position, I would also want to understand, because clearly it's not good. It's not going to help me to win in elections with minorities if I don't understand this issue. I mean, I'm not running for political office, but like maybe it can help the Clintons with this understanding how that works. So let me know. Cheers. Okay, so Cindy just watched the video that I made earlier, and she had some clarifications. I think I'm going to try and describe what you said because I want to make sure I understood it. Sure. Because this is my show. I'm the white man. Okay, so this is the thing. What was that?
Just pointing at the white man.
So here's the thing. So I said this. So the thing is, one of the things that Cindy said is that these people have been oppressed, and they are oppressed. And when people are oppressed, they generally don't have a voice. And when you don't have a voice, the thing that's really driving is to be heard, and to be understood, and to be seen.
Well, that's actually the true definition of oppression. It's suppression of their voice while being minimized at the same time. So it's like two things at once. It's like they're being made lesser than, and they don't have a voice.
Okay, let me put this in this here. All right.
I'll tap into this.
So now, okay. So there's that. Okay, the other thing is that there's this idea, this concept that Cindy was telling me, which is that when someone is really, really hurting and they really want to be heard, they really just need to be heard. And so because I've experienced this in diversity trainings, which Cindy says is actually oppression trainings. Oppression awareness trainings, right? Which is where like you'll get like a group of people who basically say, you don't get it, you don't get it. And you're like, oh, okay, so you're telling me that you can't drive your car without being pulled over every sort of 10 minutes and searched. Okay, I get that. And they're like, no, you don't get it. You don't get what it's like for us. You don't get what it's like for us. And it goes on and on like this. And you're kind of like, feel frustrated that like they're not understanding that I'm listening to them, right? And so Cindy was like, well, what's really happening is that when people are oppressed and they're really, really suffering, they're a lot of pain, and this is intergenerational pain, and like real massive loss and grief, right? What they need is they just really need deep empathy. So they need like, I really hear where you're coming from, and I feel really sad for you, and I feel like I would hate to have to go through what you go through, and like like I feel this emotion inside my body right now about this, like really, really empathizing. And what that does is it meets the energy, which is like there are people who are essentially like having to go into a victim role in order to get being held, right? And as soon as you start doing that, as soon as you start holding them, then they can move into a more empowered place. Essentially, they're regressing to a childlike state, and they need to be held, right? And so
and there's anger and sadness and a lot of pain underneath that. So the moment that say that there's someone coming at you with like this energy of like, you don't get me, and I'm being misunderstood, and you're so and so, and I'm going to attack you. The energy that's coming out is, hey, like I have needs here, and if you could just ask me what is actually happening for me or how it is happening, it shifts the conversation around. So like when we were talking about white privilege.
Yeah. Oh yeah. So this thing.
Yeah. The only thing about you being white and you having privilege is that you're merely white, and they're projecting that you aren't going to listen to them.
Okay, so this is one potential thing around white privilege, which is that the whole way that white privilege can come into it is the fact that if I'm not absolutely 100% empathic and being with them and holding their experience, then I become a better object. I become a better object to project all of that anger and resentment onto. So it's like, oh, you're doing that thing where you're not listening, and it's like all the ways we've been oppressed. You're essentially oppressing us right now because you're not really holding us. And like there's this pent up need to be held and supported and understood.
Yeah, and it's not like I've been on the, I guess, the white side before, where people are just like, you don't really get it, and like if you've been where I've been, and it's not so much that I have to go and experience what it's like to be a Black American, and it's more of, wow, like what if I actually truly tried to understand in your perspective what it's like to be you, right?
Yeah, I mean, and the thing is that we all struggle with being empathic, and also
in the face of being attacked.
Yeah, in the face of being attacked. It's very challenging to be empathic when you're being attacked. And also there is this long history of a polarization between black and white people oppressing black people, and a cultural suppression and oppression of black people. And so, yeah, I mean, there's a whole element that comes up when you're doing that thing where you're being kind of like blamed and attacked and you become defensive, then that's going to bring all that thing of like, oh, this is white privilege. And yeah, there is white privilege too. Yeah. We have a white privilege.
I mean, we live in Mill Valley, California. We're pretty privileged, and we can admit to it. And when there's that much oppression, and that oppression has a voice, it's just energy. And if you stand in the way and you try to defend yourself, there's nowhere for that energy to go except right at you. And so Bill Clinton standing up there, explaining and having sort of, kind of being defensive, well, he was being defensive, he was basically blocking their voice. He was actually oppressing them in the face of them saying, hey, we've been oppressed.
Right. And I think you were saying like what happened when Black Lives Matter got on stage at the Bernie Sanders rally way back, months and months ago, and he just gave them the microphone. They took the stage for the rest of the whatever, half an hour or 40 minutes or something, and he ended up not being able to do a talk there. But what happened is his campaign ended up collaborating with Black Lives Matter and having support from Black Lives Matter and having them, be some people from BLM being on the campaign and supporting the campaign. And so it's like as soon as they had a voice and as soon as they felt they could move out of that victim position, now they were empowered. And so yeah, there's a sort of fighting against and blocking, going with the flow of what's trying to happen, I guess. Okay, all right. We're still learning. If you've got any comments or can help at all with this, please let me know.